Aesthetics EDU would like to welcome you to our Skin Science Dashboard, where we discuss anatomy, physiology, chemistry, and everything concerning the skin. Whether you're an aspiring esthetician or a licensed professional, this dashboard is for you. We've created this specifically so you can stay current on all of the nuances associated with our field. We have a lot in store for you this session. Grab your note-taking device and let's get started. Okay, so we literally have just a few more systems left. We have the lymphatic system, the endocrine system, the reproductive system, respiratory system. What's the other one called? The the digestive system and the exocrine system. And these all honestly are kind of the easy parts. We've gotten through the hard part. Now these are we're kind of going to brush through these because the last the last four are very self-explanatory. All right. So the lymphatic system, this is where we left off. We left off at the circulatory system. We could pick up with the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is a system that a lot of people don't really pay attention to. Remember, I was talking about my foot swelling, right? And how swelling, I didn't mention this, but swelling actually is, in some cases, a good indication. Obviously, it indicates an injury. However, if you get a mosquito bite, if you ever get if you ever break out into hives, or they call it a histamine response or an allergic reaction, this is one of your body's ways of, in a sense, isolating the irritant to flush it out. So your lymphatic system is literally like a filter. Imagine like a water filter or a filtration system. That is what your lymphatic slash immune system does. Your lymphatic system gets its name from lymph fluid. And so let me tell you guys what lymph fluid is. Lymph fluid, according to the book, I'm gonna zoom in some. Lymph fluid specifically is a liquid that's composed of changing components. It says it's circulating throughout the body, dispersing white blood cells and cell nutrients. It absorbs toxins and waste, right? So our lymph fluid is this liquid. I've never seen lymph fluid a day in my life. I have seen pus before. And of course, pus is what happens when your body fights off an infection. But oftentimes, whenever your body is fighting off an infection, is carried out, through lymph fluid. So when you pop a pimple, or, let's say you drain a cyst or something like that, it's pus, white blood cells, along with lymph fluid. And so lymph fluid is not all waste, but rather it's just fluid that's carrying nutrients throughout the body and taking waste away from the body. It's very similar to the circulatory system. And it acts like it pumps throughout the body, just like the circulatory system, right? So a lot of people, they do dry brushing. Some people after like a tummy tuck, or even after a liposuction, they have to get lymphatic drainage so that the swelling or the body's response to that injury can be, carried out of the body, because that's how the body responds to injury, infections, and, allergies. It likes to send the lymph fluid to the injury, or send some kind of fluid to the injury so that it can carry it away from the body. Dead cells, waste, white blood cells, infections, it isolates it, carries it away. So with my foot, apparently the swelling is a part of the healing process, because the swelling is carrying different blood cells to the scene, and carrying away fragments, dead cells, all that good stuff to help it restore itself. So, in a sense, this is what the lymphatic system does. However, whenever somebody does not have good circulation of the lymphatic system, oftentimes you'll find them have cysts, boils. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of hidradenitis suppurativa, but that's when, people get boils under their arms in their growing area. And I believe that it's a autoimmune disorder of the lymph system or the lymphatic system. All right. Because usually it's swollen glands under the arms in your growing area. That's where you get the most, that's where you have the most glands. So, or the most lymph nodes. So that's where I get that theory from. Maybe sweat and different lymph nodes or glands are impacted by not being able to carry out the waste. All right. So, yes, that's the lymphatic system. Any questions about the lymphatic system or any, fun facts or things you might want to bring up about the lymphatic system?
That's also I guess one of the important for why that's important to us is because we also do like massages, right? Does that have something to do with it too?
Yes. Yes. Depending on the state that you're in as an esthetician, you can
Mm-hmm.
lymphatic drainage. If you're under a doctor or a physician, you can do lymphatic drainage. Lymphatic drainage, if I can be honest, lymphatic drainage can be done while you're cleansing the face. Any kind of massage, whether it's deep tissue or whether it's the use of a tool, any kind of massage stimulates the lymph nodes. So applying cleansers to the skin, dry brushing the skin, even using the vacuum, the suction machine could stimulate the lymph nodes. But manual lymphatic drainage, the medical service of lymphatic drainage, oftentimes it depends on what state you're in, whether or not as an esthetician you can do that. And then some places they literally make incisions in the body to drain lymphatic fluid. You won't catch me doing that, but yeah, that's where you see that most in like cosmetic surgeon centers and stuff like that. Okay, the next system, my one of my favorites is the endocrine system. The endocrine system, I wanted to actually bring this up. I think I did mention this when we were talking about the nervous system, but the endocrine system and the nervous system, they actually work hand in hand with each other. The endocrine system, the question I wrote down is what this system does and how it affects the whole body. So you have different kinds of glands. The endocrine system is made of different kinds of glands, right? And in the book, they refer to them as ductless glands. So you have your sweat glands and you have your oil glands, but these sweat glands and oil glands, they actually excrete stuff from the body, right? When our oil glands release sebum or oil, it lubricates the skin and is reabsorbed back into the scalp. The hair takes it in, all that good stuff. When we sweat, that exits out the body. But these ductless glands, these do not have an exit point outside of the body. So these different glands, they actually release hormones throughout the body into the bloodstream. So I give you an example of a ductless gland. You have your pituitary gland, right? And your pituitary gland, this one specifically is responsible for a lot of things, but your pituitary gland is actually responsible for reproduction. It tells your body when to release an egg. It tells your body, you know, it goes hand in hand with a woman's menstrual cycle. However, your pituitary gland also is in direct contact with your nervous system. So, there's so many different myths about our menstrual cycle. You know, they say when you're under a lot of stress, you might not have a menstrual cycle. Or they say, you know, what else do they say? They say when you're under a lot of stress, you might not have a menstrual cycle. When you don't get enough sleep, you might not have a menstrual cycle. And so your endocrine system goes hand in hand with your nervous system because whenever your nervous system is, you know, experiencing a lot of stress or not getting enough sleep, or whenever it's under an imbalance, it does not send the proper signals to the endocrine system so that it releases those different hormones. And those things do cause a big effect on the skin and the rest of the body. Whenever someone has a hormonal imbalance, that causes a lot of things. It could cause you to lose your hair. It can cause you to have acne breakouts. It can cause you, you know, like we mentioned, to miss a menstrual cycle. It could even cause things like diabetes and stuff like that, right? So your endocrine system specifically is responsible for releasing hormones throughout the body, and those different hormones actually trigger the body to do what it does, you know, like reproduce or like, you know, regulate the different functions that we have. All right. So that's a kind of a summary of what the endocrine system does, but it does a lot of different things. You guys will see it. It does a lot of different things. The ovaries and the testes, these are also a part of the endocrine system. So these are glands. We know them to be organs in terms of the reproductive system, but they also they release different hormones and things like that into the bloodstream as well. So that's a pretty interesting fact about how those organs specifically, we know them to be reproductive organs, but they're also glands that add to all of the different hormonal balances we go through or imbalances we go through. Now, the reproductive system, this one is completely straightforward. We know what happens with the reproductive system, you know. It's almost like, actually, I wanted to make this connection. The reproductive system almost functions how a cell functions, right? Remember, we talked about how the cell, whenever it gets proper nutrients, whenever it gets a good amount of energy, oxygen, good water supply, whenever there's favorable conditions, the cell, the nucleus of the cell, tells the body to reproduce. And that's kind of how our reproductive system works as well. Whenever our body is in good conditions, whenever we have proper hormones, whenever we have a good production of energy, a good production of, or a good absorption of nutrients, then we can reproduce accordingly, right? And so the reproductive system, it is straightforward, but there's a lot of moving parts in that. Any questions about the endocrine system and the reproductive system? Okay. There's a word right here that's highlighted boldly, melasma. You guys will see this a couple of times, but melasma, this is actually a pigmentation disorder that comes from hormonal imbalance. It's called pregnancy mask, but you might experience this with a client client who may just delivered a baby or um maybe going through menopause. But whenever there is a hormonal imbalance, it could trigger pigmentation of the skin. Usually it's seen right in the cheek area or, you know, under the eye, near the nose. And it's pretty much just hyperpigmentation that's caused from hormonal imbalances. And there's a lot of different skin disorders, or there's a lot of different skin problems that you'll come in contact with that are triggered by hormonal imbalance. So, as an esthetician, it's really important to have a thorough understanding of the endocrine system and the reproductive system because a lot of the stuff that we treat comes from hormonal imbalances. Another one that they didn't mention is abnormal hair growth. And as you guys saw, I grow a lot of hair. I have hair all over my body, on my face, all over my stomach, etc. And it's because of a hormonal imbalance. All right. The last three, we're going to tie all of these together some way, somehow. Maybe not this one. The respiratory system, it has to probably be one of the most set apart systems. We know that this is very straightforward. We breathe in oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide, and that's how the body filters the oxygen and the carbon dioxide that's in the blood that our skin uses. There was a sentence in this page that pretty much said healthy skin is right here. Healthy skin needs oxygen. But you may be wondering how oxygen gets to the skin from breathing in air and exhaling air that cannot be used. And so, like mentioned earlier with the circulatory system, blood is filtered through or goes from our heart to our lungs. Don't ask me how. I never really taken a deeper look at the lungs and how blood can be filtered through the lungs. But we know from just being a human being that when you breathe in, you get oxygen through your lungs. And from there, your body does what it does best. We get oxygen from the air that we breathe in. And of course, depending on, the environment that you're in, that may affect the quality of the air that you take in. But your lungs were designed to breathe in oxygenated air and exhale carbon dioxide influenced air. I guess that's the best way to say it, or air that is filled with carbon dioxide. And the body can't really use that. And so that is one of the ways that our body filters and takes in things that we need. And so you can actually consider not the reproductive system, the respiratory system as another form of filtration that we have. It's like these last three systems are all a part of filtration, getting rid of waste. Um, the next one is the digestive system. This one specifically, of course, we know whatever we eat is absorbed into the bloodstream, but there's a lot more that goes on during digestion. Right? So the digestive system, also known as the gastrointestinal system, is responsible for breaking down the food that we intake and then sending it, well, I would say turning it into nutrients that the body can use as fuel, right? So digestion actually goes through different stages, 5 different stages. It begins at ingestion, right? So you take your food in, you chew it, and then it goes through a process called peristalsis, where it moves down your digestive tract. When it goes through digestion, this is where it breaks down through enzymes. So the food that we intake is broken down into a liquid form, and then it's absorbed into nutrients that goes into our bloodstream, and then whatever we can't take in, our body eliminates it as waste, right? So this system is deeper than, of course, taking food in and then eliminating waste, but of course it's also doing things like absorbing water and nutrients into the bloodstream, sending it out to the rest of the body. How this affects the skin, when somebody, this is a big sidebar real quick, this is a big issue that a lot of us have, people in general, choosing the right foods versus choosing foods that are appealing to us. I love a good french fry, right? But potatoes, they don't really have a lot of nutritional value, right? So I could indulge in potatoes all day. Mashed potatoes, French fries, baked potatoes, all of that. Like that is my thing. But when I think about the nutrients that I'm taking in, it kind of makes me shift the way that I eat. And so you got to keep in mind your skin specifically needs vitamins, minerals, water, all of those different things. A lot of that we get from our food. And so if you are not feeding your body things that are nutrient dense, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be malnourished. Even though you find yourself eating a lot, malnourished doesn't necessarily mean that you're starving, but it literally means, you're not getting the nutrients that you need. All right. Any questions or any comments about that part? Gotcha. Let me ask you guys a question. Remember from chapter 4, the healthy professional, what vitamins does the skin need to function optimally? You guys should know this one like the back of your hand.
It was A, D, E, and C.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, so let me ask you guys this question. What foods, this is a complete sidebar, but what foods can you get vitamin A from?
Ooh, carrots.
Yes. Okay. What about vitamin C?
Oranges.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's see. What about vitamin D? That was hard. That was really hard.
Milk.
Believe it or not, I mean,
It's not that. It's not really the best one. I know.
believe it or not, most milk companies, I don't think milk by itself has vitamin D. I
They
think that most milk companies they add vitamin
add
D.
it. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because calcium, when you have, okay, so calcium and vitamin D, they work hand in hand with each other. I believe that vitamin D helps the absorption of calcium, if I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. Yeah. Hmm. What foods can you get vitamin E from? That one's the hard one.
Ooh, foods. Um, are beans one?
That's a good question. Let's see. I don't know. I don't let me look it up. I don't
Let
think
me see.
so. I don't think so. But you are going up the right alley though. Not necessarily beans, but what's
Mhm.
close to beans?
Oh, fruits? No, not close to beans. I don't know. Um, close to beans. Hmm. No.
Miss Patrice, you got anything?
Mm, close to beans.
She said, mm.
Hmm.
I'm trying
So,
to think. Something close to beans.
Mhm. So they
hmm.
call beans legumes, if I'm not mistaken. Some seeds.
I was gonna say that. I was gonna say like sunflower seeds and stuff like that. Like, okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Some seeds they do have
Seeds.
vitamin
Yeah.
E in it. Um, so
Hmm.
coconut is one of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Mm,
shea butter, believe it or not, shea butter is edible, and that has a lot of vitamin E in it. Um, I don't know about sunflower seed and all that good stuff, but anything that produces some kind of oil has a very
Mm,
likely chance of having vitamin E
like
in it. I believe,
avocados.
yep, I was just about to say it.
Hmm.
Avocado is very rich in fats. So
Hmm.
I'm
mm-hmm.
not surprised if it has vitamin E in it. Hmm. Hmm. That's good to know as an esthetician, because when you're talking to your clients, you do have to inform them that their skin care starts from within. Like If you refuse to change your diet, I refuse to. What do you want me to do? I
If
can't.
right.
I can't work with you if you don't work with me.
And I think that's one of the hardest things too, to try to get like your client to, if they come in for a specific, treatment, or, they want something, they don't, we don't really know if they're really following the diet at home. So they're coming back and you don't see any improvements, and you're like, so what's going on? And they're like, I don't know. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. But we know that if nothing's changing, they're not doing it. So yeah, that's a tricky one when it comes to clients trying to abide to your dietary restrictions.
Yeah. And I think one thing that we hear a lot, but we overlook is water consumption. That's
Mhm.
a very, very, very important factor in all of this. Because as we see a lot in this chapter, they mention how almost every organ or every system is influenced by water. So yeah, it's pretty important. This is our last system, and this is our excretory system. Now, of course, we know that the excretory system is completely responsible for eliminating waste, right? And oftentimes we just think about defecation as being the only source of waste removal. But there's so many other things, other organs in the body that eliminates waste. Your skin is one of them. Your skin is probably one of the, I'm not going to say it's the main source of eliminating waste, but your skin, when it sweats, it eliminates different salts
Mm-hmm.
and minerals through perspiration, right? Your kidneys specifically, they eliminate waste. Your liver, it eliminates waste by breaking down, it uses bile to break down different digestive fats and different things that we don't take in. Of course, and then like I mentioned, your intestines, they eliminate waste, but then also too, surprisingly, your lungs are a part of the excretory system as well, right? So this is that segment. Remember when they talked about um they talked about favorable conditions and how the ability to remove waste is one of the main things. It's the same thing with the body. Your body has to have proper elimination of waste, or else imagine all of that waste is just, sitting in your body. And if all of that waste is sitting in your body, toxins can accumulate. If toxins are accumulating, then going back to stage one, if toxins are accumulating in your body, there is no cell reproduction. All right. So we just had a full circle moment there, right? We talked about the beginning with cell reproduction and the favorable conditions, how a cell creates energy to keep the whole body functioning through cell regeneration. And then we finished off with how your body has to be able to eliminate waste in order to keep toxins at bay, right? So at the end of the day, anatomy, histology, physiology is all about cells being able to reproduce and regenerate the body, keeping it alive, keeping it functioning optimally. And like that big old moment we had where we was trying to find the best way to see how cell metabolism is important for an esthetician. Like we mentioned, good favorable conditions creates energy. Whenever energy is present, you're able to get cell reproduction. Whenever you have bad conditions, there's no cell reproduction. When cell reproduction is not a thing, you just have dead tissue, and we can't work with that. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. We love hearing feedback from you all. Stay tuned for more educational information. Stay blessed. We'll see you guys next time.